as a framework for starting this conversation at your Twitter account. And that might seem like an odd place for me to start. People who listen to this show a lot will know that I don't often do that. But I want to note two things. You follow 0 people on Twitter, yet you have almost 1 million followers. And also trending right now in the United States is Jamie Foxx. I just find that hilarious.
He's
right
back.
Next to you. He's
My
back.
nemesis.
Cannot keep this guy down. So let's talk about your account. I find your account fascinating. I find your use of Twitter fascinating. And I'd like to begin with a photograph of a professor at a blackboard that you have as your profile, I suppose, header. Who is the person in the photograph? I think I recognize this person, but I want to hear you describe why you chose this photograph and who it is.
Yeah, that's Professor Richard Feynman, who was a pioneer in the field of quantum electrodynamics. He was part of the Manhattan Project. He's known colloquially for his book, Surely You're Joking, Mr. Feynman, and a couple of related ones like So What Do You Care What Other People Think? But he's also very well regarded in the field of physics. Obviously, he passed away a while back, but he invented a lot of quantum electrodynamics, Feynman path integrals. He was part of the Manhattan Project. Brilliant guy. And I loved him because Feynman was one of the first characters that I encountered that did science and serious work and was accomplished in so-called real life, but was also he was a character. He was a happy person. He was deeply philosophical. He didn't take himself nor life too seriously. He appreciated the mysteries of life. He appreciated living life, and he had a lot of fun along the way. So it was kind of to me, he was like a full stack intellectual hacker of life, and it was just very inspirational to me as a kid growing up. Even though I read a lot of philosophy and, just kind of normal nonfiction, my hero, and even though I'm in the business world, the tech world, my heroes are scientists, because I think applied science is the engine that pulls humanity forward. It eventually becomes technology. That technology allows us to engage in all kinds of pursuits around civilization rather than be scrapping for just basic subsistence and survival. And so I think scientists are still the most unsung heroes of human history, and Feynman was one of the greats. And he was admirable in many regards as to how he lived his life. Although I think recently they tried to cancel him, but they try to cancel everybody.
Feynman is a character. Certainly he is a character, was a character, and a figure who has fascinated me for decades. And actually, I collect very few things, but managed to buy some of his papers and drawings at auction a handful of years ago, because it was the first time that they had been made available. So I can show you some of his equations from the Manhattan Project, which is wild to think about. And my fascination, though, is in many respects uninformed, because I don't have the scientific literacy to fully appreciate the genius that he brought to bear on physics, for instance. But I could appreciate his cleverness and his questioning of assumptions, and also his distaste for uniforms and other accolades. Most notably, some of the prizes that he was awarded that he seemed to have particular dislike for on some level.
He famously said that science is the belief in the ignorance of experts. And it's so funny because these days, so many people are on Twitter saying, believe in science or according to science. And you have to realize there's no such thing as science with a capital S. Science, the foundation of science is doubt. It is all about falsifiability. David Deutsch, who's kind of one of my current modern living physicist heroes, is a Popperian. Like he subscribes to Karl Popper's philosophy. And he basically says that, if it's not falsifiable, it's not scientific. If you can't prove it false, if it's true up or down or left or right, it's not science. It doesn't require belief. You should be able to challenge it at all times. It should make risky predictions that are not obvious, and those predictions should then be tested. And you shouldn't be able to, after the fact, move the goalposts, or change how the predictions were set up. And so those are the hallmarks of good science: falsifiability, independent verifiability, and making risky and narrow predictions with details that are hard to vary both before and after the fact. And that's how you end up with good science and good explanations, not by people on Twitter voting. That's politics. So like everything has become politics now, science has become politics too. People have politicized it, and there's big science. But I think Feynman would be very unhappy with that. Although he was just a generally happy character and non-political and tended not to get involved in these things. But I think he would realize that that is not actually science, but it's masquerade